I would just like to acknowledge some people who are here, and we're privileged to have two of our founders, Arthur Anton and Peter Dion. And also, we're honored to have one of our founders' daughters, George Chiplis, Evie Hasiotis. I'd like to begin by welcoming all of you who are here as new members or first-timers attending our conference. One of the unique benefits of joining Leadership 100 is that through your contributions, Leadership 100 is able to provide funding to the national ministries and to seed and nurture orthodoxy and Hellenism in America. I'd like to take a short journey explaining the history of how leadership came about. And we'll hear later on from our Anton in more detail because he was there. In 1984, a few dedicated churchmen in the persons of Andrew and Thomas Atkins, Arthur C. Anton, Peter M. Dion, George Chiplis, Michael J. Harris, and George Kokalis met with the late Archbishop Yakovos and decided to organize a national endowment program to help support the needs of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, dedicated to advancing the Orthodox faith and Hellenic ideals in America. The Archbishop challenged these individuals to go out and find 100 Greeks. That is the reason for Leadership 100. 100 Greeks willing to give $100,000 over a period of 10 years to sustain the national ministries of our church. Through the untiring efforts of these individuals who were so successful in their travels throughout the United States, the Archbishop's dream became a reality. Today, we have over 902 members, and by our 30th anniversary next year, we hope, and like I said, the word is hope, to have 1,000 enrolled in Leadership 100. You'll be hearing from Executive Director Paulette Poulos how these funds have been distributed through grants and from our founder, Arthur Anton, who was with the Archbishop, and these fine gentlemen from the very beginning. We will also hear from Michael Beth Otis, who heads up our Leadership Partners Program. In closing, I offer my warmest thanks to all of you for joining Leadership 100, and I hope to have an opportunity to be with you, some of you personally, during the next few days. At this time, I'd like to have Paulette Poulos come up and give.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It may be storming in New York and in Boston, but here we are all together. We're going to have a great week, and we're not going to worry about the snow. I can't tell you how moved I am with the results this year of the new members. I mean, it is so heartwarming to me. I look at Stamanti and Anita. I almost put her on the payroll. She was every day. Paulette called this one. Paulette, I got 4 people. I got 5. Peter Dion, the founder, went to Greece every day, 7-hour difference. He was calling me. This one's coming. This one's coming. I'm so happy you two are here tonight. It's really about. It's not about money. I know you're going to see in the book that you have for the General Assembly, you're going to see this beautiful pie chart. And it talks about $33,125,686 that we have given back to the church for national ministries. Charles mentioned about the founders, Mr. Chimples, who is like a second father to me, Mr. Kokalis, Mr. Athens, Mr. Dion, Mr. Jaharis, Mr. Anton. What they did was travel at their own expense, time away from their families, their businesses, and they went to spread the word. Dina and Kathy, my two dedicated staff members, have a Bible for each of you and a new membership pin. Now the Bible, we're supposed to spread the word of the Lord. Well, you are spreading the word through what you're doing. Your dollars are being transformed into ministries, Bible ministries. We have young men who have a calling to become priests, and sadly they have no funding. Their parents are not able to pay the tuition. The foundations that they knock on their door tell them, sorry, we want to help you, but we can't. And then someone says, go to Leadership 100. And so we are giving our second round of $10 million over a period of 10 years. For the first 10 years, we gave $1 million a year to the school. And then our chairman here, who was chairman of the scholarship committee, said, there's nothing more important than priests. And communities, you all know you're members of churches. You see them at Easter, you see them at Christmas. But if you want to bring the youth into the church, and you want to have a vital community, you need two good priests. One who can work with the youth, and one who can meet the needs of the communities. In order to do this, we need, with the 560 parishes we have, we need clergy. So our number one priority is the national ministries, and part of the national ministries is Holy Cross Theological School. For those of you who have never visited the seminary, I urge you to take a weekend trip and see the beautiful grounds of Brookline. Tell Father Nick that you're coming, your leadership members. He will do everything possible to make you feel welcome. But the nicest thing you will see is young men who come back after they are ordained, and they remember Leadership 100, and when it's National Sunday, they utilize their pulpit to talk about how they became priests because of us. This week, tomorrow, at our General Assembly, you're going to meet a young man from California. He's coming with Father Nick, and he's going to tell his story of how leadership made it possible for him to be ordained. Then we had young men in the military who came back and said, I was a little older. I was in my 40s. I wanted to be a priest. I got a calling later. No one could help me. And now, because of Leadership 100, I'm signing the papers for ordination. Our chairman, Charles Cotros, who's such a dedicated, Charles doesn't say it, but I'll say it. I know he's going to get angry. He was one of the most successful businessmen. He was CEO of the Cisco Food. And he said finally to his lovely wife, Connie, now I can relax and enjoy my life. And then we came along as the board put him on. And every day when he hears, hi, Paulette, he says to himself, I hope she's only calling once and I don't have to go through all the problems. But he's a real corporate leader who says, get the job done and I'm here to support you. He left his family and his time to come with me to Houston and to New York to get new members. And we got 41 members. Peter Dion today signed up his grandson because he wants to put him on the road that he has been on. He is a long supporter of the time of Archbishop Iakovos together with Arthur. Arthur, everywhere he goes, he lives, loves Leadership 100. I know your thing because we worked together many years. But I have to tell you, there's a gentleman here tonight from the metropolis of Detroit, Sam Galanis. Sam, I want to personally thank you for what you did, and I'll tell you why. Sam was approached by Tom Jordan, who said, I'd like to tell you about the program. He's a very busy man, and he really didn't have too much time. He said, okay, I'll have lunch with you once, twice, and we'll see. And then they had lunch together, and he said, look, I heard about this program. I know it's a bona fide 501c3 that helps the church, so I don't want to be bothered with $10,000 a year for 10 years. Is it all right if I give you a check for $100,000? And I have to thank you, because when Tom Jordan called me, I said, not only is it okay, I'm willing to get the next plane to Detroit and pick it up myself. But moving along to what the ministries of what leadership is all about. We have a youth camp. We have the Ionian Village, and for those of you who can send your kids, it's a great program. But many of us cannot afford that amount of money. We want our young kids during the summer not to only mix in other activities and events, we want them tied with the church. So every metropolis has at least 2 to 3 camps spread out within their area. Some of the children, and especially if you have 2 or 3 kids, can't afford to pay even $300 or $250 a week for 3 kids. So what we did is we gave, under the chairmanship of Charles Cotros, we went to His Eminence and we said, you have 9 metropolises, including your direct district. Your Eminence, here's a check for $270,000. We want you to give $30,000 per metropolis, and any child who wants to go to camp, whether it's New Jersey, Atlanta, San Francisco, please use this money to give the kids a week at camp or 2 weeks. You have no idea how positive that program has worked. We receive letters from children, can I sign up for next year? And parents who thank us. It's not about thanking us. The reward for us is we are doing something that is meaningful and we're feeling the response. No one is happier than Charles when he hears that a kid went to camp and had a good summer. No one is happier when I tell Charles we got a new member. Why? Because he knows in his mind and in his heart that that money is going to be utilized. We have an IT program. When I went to the Archdiocese in '65, it was Grika Chedeisis Bichirpiu. And I said, oh my God, I think I'm in the wrong place. Now I look back 48 years later, and I say to myself, no, it was a right move. Why? Because one, I was very blessed to work under the late Archbishop Yakubos, who those of you who know was probably one of the most visionary, dynamic leaders that will ever come to the Orthodox Church. And we are very blessed to have His Eminence Archbishop Demetrius as our spiritual leader, because he is a man of great faith, a man of great education, and he too is concerned with the church, not just for today, but for tomorrow. But as you will hear time and time again, and Peter and Arthur and Mr. Chimples and Mr. Kokalis and Mr. Athens, they were there, as Charles said, when the Archbishop said, Avinoto, you're never going to find 100 people to give 10,000 a year. And when the Archbishop died, there were about 500 or 600.
600.
Now the good Lord, He must be looking down and saying, okay, Bethia, you're at 902, go for 1,000, because He always goes ahead. But in addition to this, we have many clergy. I have a very soft spot for the clergy, not because anyone in my family is. There's a lot of Father Pouloses, but none of them are related to me. But I have a soft spot for the old-timers, the pioneers, who did not have a pension program. They hardly had a salary coming through to them. And many of these priests were left with nothing. And so Leadership 100 took 24 or 26, I believe it was started years ago under the executive directorship of Father Alex Karloutzis. And they had about 26 or 27 priests, and they gave a certain amount of money every year. And Steve Jonas. I continued that policy together with the chairman. Today there are only 3 of those left, and one Presidenta who was very destitute, so we're helping her. But every January 3rd, it's like clockwork, I get a phone call in my office from a priest who's about 88 years old, and his wife is 85. And he calls every year to say, thank you. Your $3,000 check, $3,000, that's all we give them, paid for my medical bills and my wife's that the Medicare wouldn't pay for. And you paid with money from Leadership 100. And I'm ashamed for him to tell me every year. I said, Father, you don't have to thank us. I wish we could do more. And he gets $3,000 a year. This is very sad. That's what leadership is all about. It's not about rich man's organization, put the money in the bank, and it's not that. If that was the case, none of us would be here. We talk about Hurricane Sandy. You witnessed it in New Jersey, Staten Island, Brooklyn. It was the chairman here, Charles Cotros, who called me and said, Paulette, get the executive committee on the phone. I want to give $100,000 in response to Archbishop Demetrius's appeal immediately, today. I want to issue a check, and I want you to give it to them to help the people in need, our families and people who are in need. We contacted His Eminence, who directed us to Bishop Antonios, and the Department of Philanthropy has now filtered out our $100,000 to help these families. This is what we're all about. They had the fires in Greece. Again, the chairman said, let's give $100,000 because they need our help. The IT program of the Archdiocese was a disaster in '65. Dimitri knows because he was around then. It was a disaster. It was elementary all the way. And Leadership 100 gave almost $1 million to update the system so that we would have the right IT system. We also, in addition to that, fund a Greek education program, a religious education program. We also have given $1 million or more to the IOCC, that is the International Orthodox Christian Charities. That is the Greek Red Cross that is worldwide, international and everywhere. When there's a crisis, IOCC is the first one to run there. It's run by Dean Tsandikos, who happens to be the son of our president of our school, Father Nick. And anytime there's a crisis, he's running with his crew to help. We gave that first money, and Archbishop Iakovos went with the first plane to bring the medicines and the food that left for Russia many, many years ago, back in '84. So why am I telling you all this? Because my job is the easiest of all. It's the most rewarding of all. I have a very dedicated staff. I have Dina, who's our membership coordinator. I have Kathy Hasiotis, who is an assistant to Dina and also helps with the finances of the office. I have Fran, who works in the financial. And I have George Shearer, who's the consultant on a part-time basis for the brochures and the things that you see. Leadership 100 is probably one of the most solid investments of the Greek Orthodox Church. Why? Because we are approaching our 30th anniversary. We have an endowment program that exceeds $77 million. But the biggest trick of all, and for those of you who are in the business world, you can appreciate this. Because of the founders who told His Eminence, you will not use this money to pay bills for the Archdiocese. You will not use this money for every cause that comes up. This money will go into a restricted fund known as the Inviolate Fund. And the only money you can use is the interest on the monies. So with all these $33 million, it was done through interest that was raised and accumulated since 1984. This is a safety cap so that you know your money will be there for the future. Long after I'm gone, it will still be there. So in closing, I just want to tell you, I am very thankful and indebted to each and every one of you. Our home in New York is your home. If you come to New York, we are at the Olympic Tower.
Paulette did say that I think might be proper to just explain one more minute, and that is this invalid issue. What she basically said is, we will never use the principle of your money to give away. The only thing we use is what that money makes, the interest that it earns. So therefore, the money that we raise from dues will stay there for, that's what we call inviolate. Right now, there's about a $9 million difference between our endowment, that the endowment is worth, and what the invalid amount is, and that is the amount of money that you pay in dues. So that's what we're trying to protect. I'd like to ask Michael Baptist to come up. He heads up our Leadership Partners Group, and this is the future of Leadership 100.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it's great to see all the new faces, the excitement in the room. I remember about 5 years ago, Paulette called me and said, we're thinking of starting a young professional program, and I think you should do it. And she said, okay, are you going to do it? So I really didn't have a chance to say yes or no. Here we are, 5 years later, with a vision of the founding members and the previous chairman, Chairman Cotros. We've always had the support of the organization. We now have 118 members, which is pretty fascinating in 5 years. The levels of the commitment is $100,000, but the levels of the entry is a little bit lower based on ages. And then once you get to the $10,000 commitment, you become, is your first year as an official member. But what's most important is the vision that the founders and people that are involved, Paulette, share for the next 30 years. We are the people that are going to carry this organization forward. And every year, every time I'm involved in anything that has to do with leadership, I am humbled and in awe at the passion that these people speak with, the friendships that they've made over the years that they've been in here. And I'm experiencing it now. I've been a member for 6 years. My parents were members 2 years before that and brought us on conventions. And it's really a lot of fun to see the friendships that we have all developed and that you will develop. I would ask you, go out of your way to meet people. Go out of your way to talk to people. There's not one person in the organization that's not approachable. And I mean that sincerely. And it's one of the most unique things of the organization is that. And feel free to come up. Please talk to me. We have events planned for the young professionals. We also encourage you to attend everything. There's always a good program. It's spectacular speakers who are passionate about Hellenism, passionate about the church, and that's how we're going to continue it for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Finally, I'd like to introduce the guy that I call Mr. Enthusiasm. That's Mr. Arthur Anton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You see the kind of executive director that we have. Leadership is in good hands. Paulette does an outstanding job. Our chairman started off by telling you history is very important. I want to bring you up what Leadership 100 is about. I'm going to go a little further so that you will understand how Leadership 100 came about. In 1970, I was blessed to be called by Archbishop Tsandikos to serve on the Archdiocesan Council. And the National Finance Chairman at that time was George Chimples. And he wanted me on his committee. He's the one who was my sponsor and my best friend. As a result, when we came on, the budget of the Archdiocese was $800,000. And it was a struggle to try to meet the payrolls. And my first meeting was in Salt Lake City, Utah. I sat there listening to what was going on, the reports, and Archbishop Tsandikos was saying, I don't know if I can meet the payroll this month. And at that time, they had started 2 years prior with a program called Sustaining Membership, that they would approach people who could give $100 a year directly to the Archdiocese. So it was called the Sustaining Program. And listen to that. I felt so badly about the Archbishop that when I got home, I went to my church, and that Sunday, I was asking my friend, give me $100. The church needs it, the national church needs $100 to get a business. I raised 89 checks, and I go to New York, and I give it to the Archbishop. So he says to me, you know, I don't like the way the sustaining program is going now. I think it should be changed, restructured, and I want you to be the chairman. Oh, what did I get myself into? Anyhow, I agreed. and we traveled all over the country. Paulette, Poulos, and myself, the Archbishop, George Chimples was always at a meeting in Cleveland. We went to California, we went to Texas, everything, trying to go ahead and get people to get used to the idea that the Archdiocese was very important. This produced a priest and everything that we needed to support it. So as a result, as we were doing this, and from the year, I was national chairman from 1972 to 82. 82, we were contributing with $1 million a year to the Archdiocese. But the parishes were not keeping up with the needs of the church. And when we were having our Archdiocesan Council in Denver in 1984, George Chimples put Peter down and me over and said, I got an idea. I think we should start a new organization. We listened. He said, I think we should start an organization to try to find 100 people who will give $100,000, $10,000 a year for 10 years. We all said, talked about it, but we got to get the permission of the Archbishop. So we go to his suite that day before the meeting, and we present the Archbishop with this idea. He sat down calmly, raised his hands up. If you can find 10 Greeks that are going to give you $100,000, God bless you. That's how Peter and I and the committee of the finance committee at that time presented it to the group. We had quite a difficult time. We had a difficult time trying to convince people. They were thinking, oh, this is going to be a millionaires club, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and everything else. We stopped to a point, and it was approved. In 1984, Leadership 100 was born. And it was easier for us to collect $10,000 at that time than to collect $100 previously. Because we said, this is the future. You are now giving a gift that keeps on giving. Your gift will be forever. Because that $10,000, when it becomes $100,000, it will be income that generates, will be creating and giving to program to meet the needs of the church. It has been a great opportunity. Not only have you made the right decision, first of all, not only will you be happy as each year goes by, but you are now will be a part of a group of men and women throughout this country who are dedicated to see the national church be tops, number one. Archbishop Tsandikos brought us to be the fourth major faith in this country, and it is growing. And this Leadership 100, the financial arm of our institution, will make even greater things possible. So I want you to know that today you'll be wondering what was this all about. I hope that you get a feel of what developed to come to this point. I hope you will get a feel that you are doing a major thing. And I hope that when you go back, when you have someone who you know has been blessed with the ability to do this good deed, that you will approach them and tell them what is being done. Paulette explained where the money is going to. I can tell you stories when the young men getting their scholarships would go to the school and they'd come around me. I thought I was a priest. They'd come around and kiss my hand. I was want to thank them. I would never have done it. I never would have been a priest. And we are turning out outstanding young men. Outstanding. But the needs are even greater than we anticipated. So I stand before you tonight and say to you that you have entered on a great journey, and you will never regret it, because at the same time, you will meet the finest people throughout this country. We have met people that our lives' paths would never have crossed, but they crossed because of our interest in the church. And we have become friends, great friends. And all this has been possible because we gave the gift that keeps on giving. So I want to thank you all.
I'm Evie Hasiotis, formerly of Cleveland, now of Boston, Massachusetts. The daughter of George Chimples, one of the founders of Leadership 100, who in 1984 had been the financial chairman for many years, always with the Archdiocesan budget at a deficit. When presented with a problem, my father always said, "Κάθε εμπόδιο σε καλό." Every cloud has a silver lining. He came upon the idea of founding an endowment for our archdiocese, and together with Peter Dion and Arthur Anton, they approached His Eminence Archbishop Iakovos to find 100 people to donate $100,000 over 10 years. He was challenged by the late Archbishop, "God bless you, George, if you can find 10 people to do this." And today we have over 900 members who are still inspired, still willing to give, and who find the challenge of bringing the future from our past with humble beginnings to give an enriched, Hellenic, faithful life to the young American children. And we have so many mixed marriages. I actually am a product of a Scottish mother and a Hasiotis father. So I am from a mixed marriage. Living proof that you can have a great Hellenic experience through the church. We have to keep vital, intelligent priests. It's important that we educate them, we have them relevant to the needs of Greek Americans. So I am proud to be serving on the executive committee now of Leadership 100. I'm very proud that my son George Konstantinos, named after my father, has been appointed to the investment committee and offers his expertise to continue earning money from the principal in order for us to be able to fulfill our obligations with the charities that we are trying to fund. So we welcome new members, we thank the members that we have, and we hope to hear from you very soon.
Hello, I'm George Tsandikos, Vice Chairman of Leadership 100. Leadership 100 has given over close to $35 million in grants since its inception 28 years ago. The biggest grants have been towards providing scholarships for seminarians at Holy Cross Theological School who will become priests, who will help promote orthodoxy in the United States and for generations to come. I am Vice Chairman of Leadership 100. In the past, I have served as Treasurer, and I have been on the Audit Committee of Leadership 100 and on the Grant Committee. Leadership 100 is heading towards future growth to increase our membership and to continue to sustain the missions of the Archdiocese to both nurture and foster new programs to continue the promotion and the development of orthodoxy and Hellenism in the United States of America. Archbishop Iakovos was a spiritual father, and through him, in his devotion and love, my interest in Leadership 100 started, and it was in honor of him that I joined Leadership 100 to continue his legacy and his vision for the future of the Greek Orthodox Church in America. His Eminence of blessed memory would not believe that Leadership 100 has given over close to $35 million since its inception. When it started, I believe that he thought that the dream was nearly impossible, I do believe that he would be very pleased with what has been accomplished and what will be accomplished in the years to come. The purpose of Leadership 100 is to promote orthodoxy and Hellenism in the United States of America. We have been fortunate to be able to help in circumstances of tragedies, whether it be in Greece or in the United States of America, and we will continue to react to catastrophes in addition to supporting the national ministries of the Archdiocese for the years to come. It's an honor to serve on Leadership 100 with founders who had a vision for the church and to continue that vision and mission with the current members and Board of Trustees, with an organization that is unsurpassed in terms of its professionalism, accountability, transparency, and under the incredibly competent leadership of Paulette Poulos as Executive Director.